Is anybody willing to at least start the note-taking activities?
I can.
I appreciate it, Andrew. I can't never have that adequate adequate attention span for that to do that at the same time. Thank you very much for that. Okay, we have just a few of us here, and hopefully nobody is locked out. Let me just make sure I don't see anything happening in Discord, but we can go ahead and get to it. Let's go ahead and we can introduce ourselves. Mark, go ahead.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I am Mark Lebrecq. I hail from Vancouver, BC, on the west coast of Canada, and I've been working with Drupal for 7 or 8 years now. DDEV for about 3. I've been happy to introduce it to my team, and we've adopted it as a tool for our whole company now. That's it for me.
That's great. Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, hello, my name's Andrew Berry. I'm the Director of Technology at Lullabot, and we also use DDEV at the whole company as of 2021 or so. And otherwise, just glad to be here and have this discussion. It's a good one.
Excellent. Kerry.
I'm Kerry Gordon, the former CEO of the Cherry Hill Company, now just a grunt worker occasionally. I've been using DDEV for quite a while, and Drupal since, dinosaurs roamed the earth. Also, I was heavily involved in one of our topics today for Drupal. I was one of the organizers of the new Drupal Association structure.
I'm glad you're here. I never understand why the participants jump around, so I get lost. Jonas, would you introduce yourself? Glad you're here today.
Hi, sorry I'm without video today. I hope you don't mind too much. I'm a Typo 3 guy and use DDEV for a long time. Enjoy it a lot. Really appreciate what you guys doing. I'm not very active in the community, but follow along. Yeah, that's it for me.
Jonas has made some incredible contributions at a very high level over the history of the project, and always great to see you here. Nick, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nick. I discovered DDEV maybe a month ago, and very excited to use it. I mostly work in WordPress, but some other things as well. And I've been putting a fair bit of effort into learning how DDEV works and to try to make some contributions to improve a few things for WordPress and traffic middleware and things like that. So yeah, very appreciative of what you guys have been doing, and hope to keep helping out.
Nick's got a very ambitious set of things going with the traffic router that we've been collaborating on, and it's great to have his eyes and his focus in there. Got a new PR about to go in, and then his will follow on that. Stas, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Stas Zhuk. I work as a DDEV maintainer, and I'm from Kremenchuk, Ukraine. And I also use DDEV for Laravel framework, and I'm glad to be here.
Very glad to have you. Yeah, just great. Well, let's talk governance today. I think that our meetings have, in general, been relatively predictable. We just go over what's been going on, click, and then we and then Kerry bugs us about governance and marketing, and then we go click. That just the same meeting every time. So I thought it would be useful for us to have a specific topic for each meeting. We only get together every couple of months, and of course this group is very valuable in your insights and your thoughts and your experiences. And so for us to talk about a scheduled topic, I think, is a good idea. This time, governance, I think maybe, and of course, governance is a long-term topic. It's one that we will be working on and trying to get our head around and figure out where we're going over the much longer term. We talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again, but we need to make actual progress toward it. And that's one of our goals for this year, is not to cement governance, but to make progress down that path. And so today is hopefully a slightly more concrete step on that. So let's go ahead and talk about it. You're free to kick in anytime. I put a list of topics up talking about what is governance. I think this group probably understands adequately the general ideas of governance, but the big picture is that governance is about how we make decisions, how we ensure continuity of the community, how we do planning, and how we communicate and carry on open communications. It's a little bit of a fancy word, but it is the standard word used. And of course, governance is what our local and state and other communities are supposed to be doing. Sometimes that's not what they actually do. Sometimes they just carry on political activities, but governance is what we hope that our governments do at every level. But for an open source project or any project, sometimes these things are not openly stated or openly laid out. And of course, as we've talked about here many times, what we currently have is what's referred to in the open source world as a BDFL, or benevolent dictator for life, set of governance, which essentially means that I'm the benevolent dictator and I make the decisions. And of course, it's very important to do it with community buy-in, but that is the current strategy. And we have all talked about wanting a path to a more mature or more general governance strategy. Any comments on where we're at? Carrie's got a comment. I know Carrie's got a comment.
Well, just by way of background, I was involved in the move from the Belgian Drupal VZW to the current structure, and I was myself and Tiffany Ferris really were the leads on getting that done, because we were the only two people willing to read the book on how to do it. Drupal.
Carrie, when you say the book, is there a specific book you're referring to?
Yeah, there's a specific book, and I've been searching through my emails from 13 years ago to try to find it. When I do, I will put it up. But yeah, there is, and so far I've been unsuccessful. I think I'll give Tiffany a call if I can't find it in the next day or two. But the basic thing is that we wanted to move from the association model, where everything had to be done with consensus of the 100, 200 people in the group, which was not very effective, to something more effective for where we wanted to go, which was to professionalize our, it's a bigger organization probably than this will ever be, but to professionalize this, get an income stream, and so we didn't have to do the day-to-day work, and that was it. So yeah, we set up we do have a benevolent dictator-ish system, although, you know, he doesn't, you know, Dries doesn't necessarily have complete control over what happens, but he has considerable control, where we basically manage the executive director. That's pretty much the structure. Is the executive director is the only employee of the board. Everything else is done by the executive director with our counsel.
The thing, of course, that happened with Drupal, and we don't have to go very far into this, but Drupal had a funding organization, the Drupal Association that you were involved with, but it did not have much to do with Drupal, the open source project's governance. And so Drupal, the open source project, had to build its own path to governance, which it now has some of. I was involved in some early discussions and work on that, probably 5 or 6 or 7 years after Carrie's work, which established the funding organization. But they were completely separate entities at that time, and they're still somewhat separate. The Drupal Association does not have direct control over the open source project, and the open source project does have more open and clear governance than it once did, but it's still pretty wishy-washy. It's a lot better than it once was. So a couple of us have some things back there. My studies back in the day were super interesting, but I find that some of the models that are out there today are more interesting. In the intervening years since I studied, Python had a complete redo. Python was a BDFL organization, and the benevolent dictator stepped down in a proper way with notice and everything else, and they had to develop a whole reset of how everything worked. There is a link here in the agenda to governingopen.com, which I thought was pretty accessible. Here it is in the chat. Pretty accessible set of links and resources that isn't just a pile of stuff. You know, a lot of times it's just hard to understand what all these different organizations are doing, but that one was pretty good. I keep in touch with Ruth Cheesley, who is the lead of the Mautic project. And Mautic is a CRM, I guess you would call it, it's bigger than DDEV in terms of the community, but it's not that much bigger. It's relatively similar in terms of you know, a couple of people doing it full time, and I think the community is a little bigger, but they had an interesting experience where they essentially the project got bought by Acquia. That many of you in the Drupal community are familiar with Acquia. They got bought by Acquia, but then Acquia got rid of them a year or two ago, and kind of spun them off and provided them funding for a modest period of time. And so they had to start from scratch, figuring out their governance, which I thought was it was very interesting. And I met with Ruth last week, to talk about their experience again. I meet with her once in a while because their experience in marketing and governance is very much parallel to ours. I linked in the agenda her talk about how you change the governance model of an established open source project, which is the story of their journey. The thing that I find attractive about what they did, and it's very similar to Typo 3's governance. Jonas, do you pay attention to Typo 3's governance?
Yes, yeah. I'm a co-lead of a team in Typo 3, and we are also currently undergoing a change. Yeah, but the governance, go ahead with your question if you have.
So I will have a question. I would love to. I'll give you a moment to think about it. I'd love to have your take on Typo 3's governance and its history with governance. But the Mautic project and Typo 3 both have a membership-based system where most people and organizations pay for a membership at various levels. Mautic has a very exotic pricing model where different countries pay different amounts for individuals, and where contribution can be used as a basis for membership instead of money. Really, really significant. And Mautic's overall, it looks like I didn't put their, oh yeah, the Mautic link is actually a link to their whole governance plan. Their governance plan is exhausting. I don't know how they could possibly have gone that far, but they pulled off a huge and very, very explicit governance plan. The things that I like about it are that it ties financial contribution and power together, but in a fairly simple way. So both individuals and organizations can pay for membership, and then they have a vote, and then the vote brings a council in, and the council is the direct power situation. I like that because we are in a situation where we really need to be able to communicate clearly to our collaborators in organizations and individuals how they should be involved with the DDEV community, how they should fund it, and tying that into governance, I think, is a good idea. So making it clear that people should know why they should become members, and that why they should pay for membership, and why they should pay significantly for membership in the DDEV community. And I think Mautic and Typo 3 have done that in a good way. Yeah, Kerry, go ahead, and then maybe after you speak.
Yeah, I just want to say that Drupal specifically rejected the pay-to-play model, and members in Drupal, when you buy a membership, it's not really a membership in the organization or any organization. Although that's not to say that if you give $50,000, you won't get some notice. But we rejected that, And we have other reasons for people to get involved. We do give notice. We do, give promotion to people who give us a lot of money. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, as I was, I mean, Drupal is very, very loosey-goosey about everything. So loosey-goosey that the Drupal Association is not governance for the Drupal project, which I think is, I think we want to, my opinion is that we want to accomplish something that is clearer, so that the governance that we establish, which I think being integrated with money is a good idea, but the governance that we establish should be clearly correlated with our financial plans. Jonas, would you talk a little bit about Typo 3 governance?
Yeah, I'm not a specialist in all that, but as you said, we have membership and membership fees. They are very low for individuals, and you don't get anything on the governance level if you pay more, but you get exposure, of course. So you get advertisement as a platinum member, for example, or so. But by being a member, you have the right to vote for the board, and you have a right to vote on budget ideas. But on the budget ideas, the board has the last say. So that's kind of, how do you say, it's not a vote, but there's a specific term for votes that are not binding, so to say. Yeah, you know what I mean, yeah. So, and that's it, what you get as a member. And then you are kind of included in the community by newsletters, and yeah, basically that's it.
I'm a member. Go ahead.
I think it's for Typo 3 that works very well, and that's very good.
I'm a member of the Typo 3. It's the Typo 3 Association that I'm a member of, right?
Yes, yeah.
And it's $8 a year for an individual or something like that. Obviously, I could pay more, but it's very easy. It's a trivial way to be engaged with Typo 3. Typo 3 has another fairly exotic technique. They involve agencies in a very specific way, but then they have their own company. So maybe you can explain this a little bit, Jonas. The Typo 3 Association essentially has the company Typo 3 GmbH, which does what it puts on conferences and stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the company has some functions. The one function is it has to work for the association, so to say, for the board. So if they have specific tasks that have to be done, they can pay the GmbH for that, and they are also the owners of that company. And then they are there to do marketing in general and to do very high level helping high level customers or potential Typo 3 customers to decide to do, I'm sorry, my English is so bad today, to help them decide or whatever. So if they are in decision between SharePoint and Typo 3, they can step in, but they cannot do projects on their own. So that's an important thing, was always not to get into competition with the agencies that are building Typo 3 sites. I can look it up and give you more details in some minutes.
I think long term, maybe at the probably 2 meetings from now, I think we'll probably return to this. And
Mhm.
I hope you'll come and give your feedback. Do you happen to know how big Typo 3 GmbH is, or how big the board is of the Typo 3 Association?
The board is 4 members, if I'm not mistaken, currently, and always 2 are on a term that are overlapping. So always 2 get re-elected. And the size of the company, I would have to lie, but it's something about 20 employees, more or less.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that is always really interesting. One of the really interesting things about Mautic is that they set up a board with very, very clear overlapping terms, and they have a very formalized structure where for example, the next president is, that's not the terms that they use. The next president is the assistant president for a year, and then the past president is a assistant president for a year. So it's kind of like service organizations like Rotary and things like that also do that same kind of thing, which is great for continuity if you have commitment levels that span multiple years. It's interesting to see whether we can develop a governance community with commitment levels that span multiple years. That's a thing that we haven't asked for, and that we will want to, we're going to want to figure out how to ask for that. That's something that we're going to want. Goodbye, Ofer. Glad you came. We'll have the notes. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
So, I think that a couple things. Well, Drupal Association has overlapping terms, and this was all, we put a lot of study into what we wanted to do at the time. Once again, it's like 11, 12, well, at least 12 years ago. I think that, you might want to consider at some point, just establishing a committee to do nothing but study this, because it requires a lot of study, as you, I'm sure, know, because you've been studying it. So just one thought.
What I was thinking is that we need to, obviously, this is one of our goals for this year, and it's a goal that we will work toward by working together, and this group particularly. I was thinking that 2 meetings from now, I was thinking that the next meeting, our topic should be marketing and fundraising, and focus in on that. Another one of Carrie's favorites. And that the following meeting, that would be, so the next meeting is September, so the November meeting, that we would have a group presenting governance ideas and a governance pathway for DDEV ideas as the topic for November. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Well, I think that's great. I think that if you are going to do that, I think we should establish a channel on Discord or wherever and have a conversation, not go into this cold in 4 months. I think that maybe there should be some, either homework or at least a discussion about resources, so that everyone, if not on the same page, is at least has the same, same background of what we're talking about, so that we could, so that we don't have to start from the ground up.
Would you be willing to organize this group?
Okay, I will. Sure.
The goal of the group would be to improve our maturing and understanding what we might be getting into at this point, not making choices,
Right.
but I think that next year we will be making choices. I think this year we need to zero in on what our choices are.
Exactly. That's exactly my point.
And if you would be willing to do that, obviously I'll be there. And I think that I think it requires conversation in advance and preparation. But the next, in my opinion, would be the next step is to do that conversation, perhaps more alternates than I've discussed today, and perhaps more specifics about what one of the key things that I'm concerned about is that the size of our community and the size of our existing advisory group are not huge. And so if we made something as exotic as Matic, I think we would be in trouble. We would be overstepping. And so we have to figure out something that fits the size of our community and our group.
Well, that's exactly the challenge. That's exactly the challenge. We can't have a 40-person board, and we're not going to hire 20 people to do this. We have to figure out how to work with what we have and what our practical alternatives are. I mean, when the Drupal board started, we had one employee, and shortly after 2 or 3 employees. But it's a long way from that to the 30 or 40 or however many employees they have now. I'm no longer in that, thank God. Yeah, so next month I will gather what I see as some conversation starters about what resources we might want to look at. And this is I'll be organizing this, but I won't necessarily be leading it.
That's right. Yeah, that's good. And I think so for 2 months from now, so for the November meeting, getting a group that has had discussions about their preferences and druthers and what the possibilities are would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead. We've got kind of a little over 20 minutes, so let's just talk about recent updates. Andrew and I were on Talking Drupal, and it was really loads of fun. Do you want to say anything about that, Andrew?
It was really loads of fun. No, it was a good conversation. It was interesting to talk to some other folks who I haven't talked to about DDEV from the host and so on. And I think, I don't know, I was trying to think, Randy, if it was like a conversation for anyone who's thinking like, why DDEV? If it would, if it's better for the audience of people who have used a bit of DDEV and understand it, or if it's great for the people who are, maybe have never even set up a local environment before. But I think something like this is a great way for us to talk about DDEV. And I don't know, Randy, if you've been on other ecosystem podcasts like in WordPress or Typo3 or what have you, but I feel like that's a good template, and we could, it would make sense to try and get, similar conversations for other audiences out there.
Yeah. I've done a couple, like Expression Engine, and of course, I've spoken at the Craft conference last year. But yeah, I've always thought it was, anyway, good point. So, and thanks for doing that. And it was fun to do it with you. I was really glad you were there. A second super important thing I wanted to spend a little time on is that we have signed a contract with Open Strategy Partners, which is JAM. If many of you know JAM, Jeffrey McGuire and Robert Douglas is our direct person, like a 20-year Drupal participant who hasn't been around much in recent years, but is circling back around. And the goal is marketing communication and growing up our communication strategies. They're specialists in that for open source communities. They've worked with Typo3 for ages. In fact, they were the matchmaker between DDEV and Typo3 many, many years ago. And that was a lovely thing. And so we are having our first meeting with them next week to start that. It's our commitment to them is 1,500 euros a month, about $1,600, and they are giving us a discount and essentially as a contribution. So we put their logo up there with the contributors for the discount. I'm excited about that because giving us a strategy and a plan and an overall more consistent plan on our marketing communication, I think is super important, especially
That's
because
great to hear. Really, really great. That's cool. From what I gathered from what they did for Typo3, they provided the outside view that's so important and so interesting as a project. Yeah. Cool. Very, very cool.
yeah, I'm excited about it. I was Jam and I talked about it more than a year ago at DrupalCon Pittsburgh, and we didn't get back to it, and it seemed like it was financially out of range, and it's still, as we'll see in just a minute, we look at the finances, it's still slightly questionable, but it's really a great thing to have somebody focusing on this kind of thing, as Carrie's been trying to poke at us for many years now, having a very specific and explicit way to work on marketing communication and communication in general is a real win for us. And I'm glad that your memories of their impact on Typo3 was excellent. And I'm so glad they did the matchmaking between Typo3 and DDEV. That has been a great win. So that's big and exciting. The first meeting on that is next week. Any questions or comments? I think some of you probably know Jam.
Looking,
So
sorry.
go ahead. Go
You
ahead,
know,
Carrie.
looking at this, it occurs to me that that I think that, and I'm sure you're going to get this from them, and this is redundant, but that we need in everything we do clearer links to how to support us, including in the documentation. I mean, I couldn't even find a link to the DDEV.com site in the documentation, and you know, just having that available everywhere you go, whether it's in GitHub or the documentation or, you know, on the site. Obviously on the site there's a support DDEV. I don't know that it's exactly clear how you give money to DDEV on the support DDEV site, support DDEV page either. So
I hope to
yeah, I think we
have
need
your
to.
feedback on that, and I hope to have you. I don't think you're currently supporting, are you? I'd love to have you
Well,
do
I'm
that.
sending money every month somewhere through GitHub.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. If that's not the way to do it, then it should be clear on that page how to do it, because I don't know.
If you look at the GitHub sponsors page, it talks about all the ways that we do it, and the DDEV.com pages link to that. But I agree with you completely.
It's not clear.
I agree with you completely. I would love to see that improve.
Yeah, okay, because I don't know where it's going, but it's probably under the Cherry Hill Company, but I'm
Okay.
quite certain that we're sending you you know, not an insignificant for me amount every month. So
We'll take a
where
look
is
and
it going? Who
sort
knows?
that out. Take a look and sort that out. If it's going to GitHub sponsors, it's coming in. So it's the preference for corporate contributions is to invoice and have a longer term thing. But GitHub sponsors works, but they do take a bit of a cut of it. So as far as releases, we've had 3 releases at least since the last meeting. Yeah, we had one last night, mostly because Andrew ran up against the problem, and then it came up in Discord a couple of times. People with complex DDEV setups were having trouble since Debian 12.6 was released 2 or 3 days ago. So we did a release that solves that, thanks to Stas's work chasing it down right away as soon as it started showing up. And we went ahead and did that. I think you probably all know about the previous release, 1.23.2, which was done because MariaDB decided to change their dump format completely and make it incompatible with all other versions and all previous versions of MySQL and MariaDB. Why they did that is completely beyond me, but we bent over backwards to respond to people, and we did a blog explaining the whole thing. If you hadn't seen that, it's here. You will, if you're using anything but DDEV, you will be exposed to that soon enough because it broke the internet. It's a massive breaking change. Incomprehensible, but they did it. One of the things, though, that made me think quite a lot during the process of this is that we need to emphasize to our community that what we're doing is not just providing a tool or something that you download or whatever. What we're essentially doing is we are working all the time as a service to make people able to keep developing and stay ahead of these things. The reason we can do that is because the community is there waking us up every time something happens. So I wake up in the morning and somebody has come up with a new problem, and Stas has already solved it, like he did with the one for last night's release. Because we have a great community and the community is involved and the community knows that they'll get response, we are able to respond and keep them working without them having to know all these things. And that is amazing. But we're going to have to figure out how to communicate that, because it's an incredible service that we are providing, working with the community. I'll just whip along here. We did start up the contributor training again and have had 2 or 3 trainings, and there are a couple more coming up this month. You can sign up for them at the meetup link. I don't know whether did all of you sign up on the meetup?
I did. It was interesting to see you move to that, just because I know a lot of other groups that I've been a participant with moved away from Meetup because I think they started charging based off the size of your group as well. So I'm sure whatever you looked at for paid plans is current, and it's fine. It's fine. But it was the first time in a long while I've seen it go to Meetup and not away from it.
Yeah, I actually had started a meetup group many years ago, and it is over 900 now. It's a cycling group, and the price on that for 3 groups is still in the $170 a year range, something like that. Our startup price was a come-on price that is very, it's like $15 or something. But I just haven't been able to figure out something better than what we have done for this group over the long term, which is my personal calendar managing the users in it, where you can't sign up or sign off or anything like that. So always interested in other things. And I would love it if all of you haven't signed up there, I would appreciate it if you would and use that technique. Because the calendar thing is just, we need to, well, part of our whole goal as an organization is to not be tied to my personal stuff, and managing meetings like this out of my calendar is not that great.
One thing that I've seen work with some communities is you can actually, because we already have a Discord server, you could have it so that users can opt in or opt out of notifications of, well, you could use meetings or events or anything like that. And that would allow, it kind of takes care of itself. It's free for now. I think Discord is planning on changing their payment models too. So that is some, and I'm not an expert on Discord, but I think it is fairly straightforward on how we can sort of use different sort of add-ons and different things for Discord to do that. I could look into it, but I don't know. I don't know if that's better or worse than Meetup, and I don't know if you have a problem with Meetup specifically, or if there is is there a membership that we have to pay per month there, Randy, right now?
It's annual, and
Okay.
the first round is nothing, but the next year it'll be 180 or something like that. So it's the money didn't strike me as the problem. To me, the problem was the change of procedure. But I like the fact that we can have all of our events in one place available, and that when I tweet about them or whatever, I can give a link to that instead of PM me your email so that I can add you to the calendar, So, Nick, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in my experience across different projects and various things, consolidating things into like as few kind of platforms and venues and sites and domains, whatever as possible is ideal. There's a lot, whenever there's friction to go off the site or off the Discord, off the whatever to meet up people, you kind of lose people. And so I don't know, like someone was just saying, perhaps something through Discord, or maybe even setting something up like a separate page or a subdomain through the DDEV website. I mean, everybody's a web developer. I know in WordPress, there's lots of event sort of things that are often free, or Drupal, I'm sure there's the same, and I'm sure the same for all the others. So I don't know if there's something that could be spun up and casually hosted with the new capabilities easily or not.
One of our contributors suggested Meetup, and I went with that. And the reason was Meetup is the only, I did some studying about whether you could easily publish calendar entries, and Meetup has the best one of those that I've seen. Very few, I couldn't even, with a web search, I couldn't even find a good way to give people a calendar link. You can create an ICS file, but you have to be a calendar magician to know how to import those. Anyway, that's where we are right now. I was uncomfortable for the reason that you say, Nick. I didn't want to add another platform to the things, but finding a path from my personal calendar, I thought was a useful thing. And several people are organizers on that meetup. So that means that it's not just me that has privileges on that meetup. So anyway, that's where it is. It'll work for now. It has risks, and those are the risks. And so the next tiny item on here is we got Google Workspace for free for nonprofits because of our 501c3. So that's good. And that solves a bit of trouble, like when we have multiple people with DDEV.com addresses. So Stas now has one. We did just have like one address. Now Stas has one, Bernardo has one, etc. And we have Joomla and Sulu quick starts now in the DDEV quick starts, which is good. So any other things that I might have left out on updates or thoughts on that? And then we'll do the financials. Okay, financials. We have about 19,000, maybe it's 20,000 today. There was one coming. Mark, thanks for coming, and see you next time. Andrew, I think we'll make it by the end of the hour. Thanks. We will finish it up. We've got 5 minutes still. We have about 19,000 in the bank. Our income is normally about 5,000 a month. Our expenses, our primary expenses is Stas, 3,500 to 4,000 a month, which is a great investment. But we have increased our spending as of this month by the approximately $1,600 a month for OSP. So the details are in the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement that is there in the advisory group meeting. And so any questions or comments about the finances? By the way, I do a very modest job of bookkeeping with this, with a thing called Wave App that I've used for years. If anybody ever wants to volunteer to do the bookkeeping, they will be very welcome. It's not very hard. I usually do it right before this meeting, spend an hour or less every couple of months. But I probably don't do a very good job, and somebody who is a better thinker or doer would probably do a better job. I can see Carrie studying it very carefully.
No, I'm studying Discord to figure out how to add a channel is what I'm studying. Sorry, I didn't realize I had my video on.
All right. Your eyes going back and forth. I always, like I usually have my camera on, and I'm in a meeting and I get distracted and I start doing something else, and now I know what that looks like. So, okay, anything else on anybody's mind in the 3 minutes that we have left? You're welcome to bring up anything related to DDEV or governance or finances or events or anything else.
If I may, I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I think especially the websites and the help looks so professional and very, very good now. I think it's amazing. And your work especially, I think that's what strategy partners will also get with you, is like the value you are delivering is really, for example, to alleviate the problems with the MariaDB dump now and things like that. So you are helping immensely.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. And
I also think the presentation of the websites and so is so good now. It's yeah, very nice. I received a very nice T-shirt and wear it very proudly.
Matt Stein worked really hard for like a year on both the docs and DDEV.com and turned DDEV.com into a static Astro-based website. Huge contribution. Then he moved on to other things, but yeah, you're seeing so much result of his excellent work. Okay, thank you all so much. We will see you in Discord, and thank you all so much for your ongoing contribution and work and hanging with there, and we'll see you in September and November. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.